Hello, everyone, and welcome to this thought provoking and enlightening panel discussion that promises to shed light on crucial and often underestimated aspect of phishing. So today I have been joined with a wonderful panel coming from different backgrounds. I want to introduce all of them to you. We have Shivakant Pandey, Director Technical Support at Dhruva Data Solution, and he has 13 years of experience in product support and cloud operations. He excels in strategic planning, team management, and security and technical support. Welcome to the panel, Shivakant.
Thank you, Shivani.
And then we have Santosh Kamani. He's a seasoned CISO and an entrepreneur. Currently, he leads CyberFit and has 2 decades of experience in information security and risk management. Welcome to the panel, Santosh.
Thank you.
Then we have Vish Reddy. He is a data security expert and has led product teams at prominent companies like Symantec and Dhruva, to name a few. He also co founded Revise to simplify data protection for Atlassian Cloud. Welcome to the panel, Vish.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
And last, we have Vandana Verma, Security Relations Leader at Sneak. She brings 17 years of cybersecurity experience to the table. She works on raising awareness and enabling secure software development, serving as an OWASP Global Board of Directors member. Welcome to the panel, Vandana.
Thank you so much.
So, I believe in the history of cyber attacks, phishing is and always has been a front runner. It is ever present and it is continually evolving. So, today our panel will provide valuable insights on how to combat this threat, discussing about innovative strategies for detection, prevention, and how it plays a vital role of user education in maintaining the cybersecurity. So now, as we have seen, like phishing attacks continue to evolve in sophistication. What are the latest trends and tactics that organizations should be aware of? So,
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll get started. I think over the past few years, I think the attack vectors have been evolving. The attackers, getting more smarter. I think today, if we look at the way things are with AI coming in, with generative AI especially, business email compromise, that's something which is gaining a lot more. Wherein in the past it used to be somebody would send an attachment or a URL in an email which is malicious. You click on it, and then there's some sort of malware which gets installed on your machine, and that starts off a whole chain of events. But in today's version, there is no attachment, there is no URL to click on. It is the attacker trying to make you do something, the recipient that is, and that has been gaining a lot. And of course, there are multiple companies out there which are helping detect and prevent those. But my belief is that user involvement and training awareness, I think, is very key in any of these different vectors through which phishing attacks occur.
no, like rightly said, like these days with the generative AI, these things are really hard to predict. But then, how can organization can adapt to their detection methods and stay ahead of it? Like anyone wants to contribute to that point?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing is that we start buying the tools which are there in the market, but the second thing is training our employees. Uh, these two things go hand in hand. I'll give you a reason. I am part of security. I think we all are part of security in some way or the other. And we've been fished once, whether we accept it or not. I have been fished recently. So Sneak said that we will be giving you $50 voucher. And that was a phishing campaign. Everybody thought that yes, it's actual because it's Sneak, it's sent by Sneak. but that was a phishing campaign so that they could get to know that who's actually clicking on the link. Almost my whole team clicked on it and the other people around. So you never know when you do that. Similarly, there are scenarios where uh, the attackers are very, very sharp. They just change a small letter here and there. So you never know when those things happen. Like I can be changed to L. All those things are super minor, but then they make a lot of difference, especially for the companies who are really into the public business. Now, what do you do? So, training. Second thing is the way Vish mentioned about training. Now, when we have generative AI, as much as people are cursing it, as much as it is important, because when you train that right, when you're using it internally and you train it right, trust me, it can detect all of these issues early on. That's why there are a lot of companies who are talking about using generating generative AI to detect phishing emails so that they can understand how the behavior of that email is, how that email looks like. And these phishing trainings we've been giving for almost ages, and still we are prone to those, which means there is something which is lacking, which we need to concentrate on. At the same time, when we start educating with a reverse psychology, as in there's something which has gone wrong. Now how do you go back and understand what has gone wrong? So we actually went through this training, and I would say that that was one of the best training I've ever had, wherein it was the whole reverse psychology. The incident has happened with me. My system is encrypted with ransomware. Now what was the issue because of which it has happened? It was because I clicked on one of the phishing emails which downloaded a backdoor, and then whole thing started. So probably getting the right tool which suits your need, by making sure that you configure it right. I don't want to quote some companies, but they have been fished by just making small mistakes, and those were one of the biggest breaches of, I would say, cybersecurity history. So getting the right tool, training that, and configuring it right, but making sure that your people understand it, that why things are happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like Shivakant, you want to add something to the point?
Sure. So since I come in from support background, I would like to share one of the recent example that you may have already read on the internet. MGM Resorts, right? MGM Resort was attacked by a bunch of ransomware groups, and the attack was fairly simple. It was not uh, doing some kind of social engineering. It was not doing some kind of phishing campaign or anything like that. It was essentially using some personal information which is available out there on internet, like LinkedIn, media platform like LinkedIn, where you can get it and impersonate as a user, and then start to do kind of a phishing based on the support system itself, wherein you are calling to someone and just getting trying to get the information impersonating as the user. That is also sort of some phishing, right? You are not actually sending something to somebody. You're not actually sending email, text, or links to somebody to get phished. You're actually using a human to just hook somebody into the phishing system. And that was a beautifully carved, done attack in Jim Resort. And a result of it, I think we all know what happened there, right? So education is one definite important part of the security prevention. The other thing is that what tools and reminders that you keep on giving to your employees and users that they are not phished. Some of the tools that nowadays coming up, wherein they can quickly scan the links, they can quickly scan the messages and tell you if it is a phishing attack or not. And in addition to that, just in time reminders that hey, you've done your training in the month of, let's say, August. Possibly every quarterly you get a training, but here is the just in time reminder in between. Maybe 2 weeks have passed in the training already. Here is a reminder that you should be aware of it. Those kind of things helps a lot in ensuring that the education still remains intact until
Mm-hmm.
the next training comes up.
Right.
Right.
Like I have seen and I have also been part of such corporate trainings where we never used to take those seriously, and it used to be like just rundown of skip 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 skip, like that's why we see certain elements of human errors that really contribute to such magnanimous amount of phishing attacks. So Santosh, would you want to highlight on that part as well?
Yeah. So I think everybody covered it, but training, in terms of running just fees, measuring, training compliance is just one part. But given that phishing is here to stay, because phishing at the core is very, it's impersonation, right? So it will exist in different forms, like Shivkan said, voice, SMS, emails, and all that. So trainings, I mean, I had greater success when it was a customized training. Like, for example, Vandana just mentioned about something, $50 off from a sneak voucher. So similarly, for different departments, let's say somebody who is into finance, we would create phishing campaigns around, their function, that, they receive a phishing link, a fake phishing link, right, from a vendor making payment. And the same goes for HR, a link that has recruitment agencies URL into it. So those customized phishing campaigns, they do help a lot. Number two, your education has to be continuously monitored. Users completing education is one part, but that has to be converted into metrics. For example, what percent of your users click on the links? Like, I have seen that, where I thought, my users are well educated because I was training them every month, but then the click ratio was only 50-60%. Out of those 50-60%, hardly half the people were reporting into SOC or incident management help desk. So all these, matrices, KRIs, KPIs, unless you monitor that, that it's very difficult to measure the effectiveness of your education.
No, absolutely. Like I think in our family also we need to inculcate that practices, because mostly our parents or grandparents, they're likely to fall into traps of these fake messages that come in, that you can earn sitting at home, and you just have to share your OTPs on call. So they do not realize the impact, like implications of such kind of activities. I think awareness of certain kind is very very important. And like even the phishing campaigns that Vanna was highlighting, this phishing simulations, I think that's very much important, because even now we get emails such kind of share your details and you have won like $1 billion from king of Zimbabwe or something. So such kind of email chains still exist. So detection remains still a piece which we need to make sure, like how to detect these, because this is not just like you set up an IDS or IPS, you can just monitor like what is hitting your infra. So how can we be very particular in that kind of detection, and what can be the measures that we can take to have these safe browsing activities, or like having like good password mechanism, MFAs or SSOs, which can prevent. Anyone wants to highlight these points?
Sure, maybe I'll talk a little bit about some of
Yeah.
the detection techniques.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, I used to work for a email security company called Agari, and what we used to do was when a email would come in. Again, this is all for enterprises, not for consumer. Now, I think Shivani, you sort of highlighted the need on the consumer side too, right? I think there's a bigger need, but just talking about the enterprise side of things, I think there are many of the email security companies today. Uh, they first scan the message, but a lot of them limit themselves from a privacy perspective to just look at the header of the email. Now, header of the email, I think Vandana, you mentioned earlier examples of changing one letter, make it look different, especially with your domain name. You can use Cyrillic letters. Nick could, you could put in a Cyrillic letter out there, make it look as though it is Nick. and an email would come from, let's say, the CEO to maybe the finance leader, telling him, "Hey, I need access to some account. Can you just send me the password or something like that?" Now, those detections, I think most of the email security tools now are starting to catch up, and they're able to do that. But I think the more interesting part is when you start looking at the body of the message. And that's where applying more machine learning type of techniques to understand what that conversation is, comparing it with what has been going on in the past or from history, and then classifying it as is it a threat or not a threat. I think those are getting more prevalent. I think there are a couple of companies which are starting to do that. uh, I think Abnormal Security, uh, they do something like that. Proofpoint, of course, has been in this business for many years. They also have some of these detection techniques in place now. Even name and impersonation, right? Anyone can go and create a domain and then uh, create a username, or at least you can put that username as you're the CEO, or whoever you want to be in that other organization. So being able to quickly detect those, I think, is something that should be key for any of these detection products.
Yes. Shivakant, you want to add something to Wish?
Sure, I would like to share a story. I think a couple of years ago when we were into era, wherein everybody were working from home, no offices were open, and one fine day, I think almost half of our employee base got an email from our CEO with a name impersonation, which was talking about. The email was pretty different, but the name impersonation was there. It says that it's our CEO sending an email to our employees that talk about that. Hey, you're going to get the salary this much this year, and if you would like to opt in, click on this. And it was essentially a phishing campaign being done by our organization. Obviously, everybody was super furious in that time. People were working remote, and how do you identify if it is a legit email or not? You cannot call IT all the time. You cannot bombard IT with all of the questions every time that you get an email like this. So in that perspective, when everybody clicked on that email and then figured out, hey, it was a phishing campaign, and then they were given a message that it was security, contact security at dua.com for further reporting to this email. And when we actually approached the security team, we were told that, hey, situations like this, you don't have to open or click on any email. There are certain tools that we were recommended to use it, which you can use it to scan it by your own and get confident about if it is a genuine email or not, and then click on that email if it is necessary still. So user education plus scanning that email, regardless of whatever detection mechanism that you may put in the system, there is always a loophole around it. So if somebody bypasses the loophole in the detection mechanism, you still have some role to play as a user to scan that email and then act on it accordingly.
Maybe one thing I learned uh, was, a lot of us check email on your mobile device, right? At least
Right.
on your browser. From a training, when you do a training session, typically the training video or the tutorial will tell you, go hover on the link, look at what the link is actually, where is it actually going to. But on your mobile device, or at least on your Apple devices, there's no way to go and hover and figure out where that link is going to. So I learned a technique. Maybe I'll share it with everybody, which is, if you click on the link and you just uh, hold it, you can actually see what that link resolves to. So, not if you don't recognize the domain where it is supposed to be going, then don't click on it. And, see, get a preview of where that link leads you to.
Hmm.
You don't want to click on it. Another thing which at least I follow, and I think a lot of people do, which is uh, in your email, don't download images or don't resolve links automatically again on your mobile device. That way, if you see something which you think is suspicious, you don't even have to open it. Again, very basic tool, very rudimentary. If something passes through all the detection systems which are there, something which might be useful.
So, just to add to that, on the detection side, some of the simplest checks that we had tried out was number one, the moment you see that, I mean, this is from an organizational standpoint, that the moment you see that somebody sending out email from a domain that is not your own, then we would modify the email subject and add a tag that says external. So even if my CEO is sending me an email, if the domain is changed, though his display name could be same as my boss's name, I would know that it is external email. Number two was, within the Outlook itself, we could create a plugin where you can immediately report to your help desk. And then obviously there are some organizational level solutions where you can isolate your web browsing and all of that. But some of the incidents that have been materialized, in my case, years ago when I was in States, that our system was compromised. One account was compromised, CFO's, and from his account, email was sent to everybody saying that this is your financial report, and it was a PDF. And within that PDF, there was that hyperlink that you click here to get to your I think OneDrive. Back then it was SharePoint, to see that data. Now we tend to look at the email body, messaging links and all that, but when you receive something in the PDF, then again all that scanning that you do, suddenly you kind of start trusting it, because the email came from somebody I knew, and that PDF had the phishing link, and then it was opening up a fake Outlook page where a lot of users compromise their credentials. So these things do happen. I mean, it's like you have to be alert all the time.
Yes. Most commonly known as the founder scam or the CEO scam. So this has been like around, too much. Even with us, I want to share, like in Cleap as well. My head of partnership and license, she got an email supposedly from me, like, "Hey Pooja, I am stuck somewhere. I need you to run this payment of INR 50,000 rupees immediately. I am stuck somewhere. I can't do it." And immediately she called me and like, "Why did you send me this email? You never sent such kind of emails to me." Like, "No, I didn't send any email." And then I went on call with her and I saw, and then we found, like, in the email address, the @cleep.in, it was modified to some other thing, and just my name was there. And after that we ran like so many kind of campaigns. We are a very small team, so we don't want to get such kind of activities happening. Though everyone is in security, they understand, like, this is not something that Shivani ma'am will send to us. So after that we found, like, there were so many employees of mine who were targeted with these kind of emails, and then we had to take action and get rid of those. But yes, these founder scams have been like running throughout. Even now you can see this, they are giving you jobs on WhatsApp. Do a small task, you will receive 500 rupees immediately via your Google Pay. So these things do exist. And I think safe online behaviors, or taking care of these user education is very vital. Now, Shivakant, you were saying something. You wanted to add something.
Yeah, sure. So just adding to what Santosh said, detection is one way, and even if you're being an end user, if you get an email like something from CEO or CFO to open a financial report, you're not too certain about it, you can still use certain services nowadays which are available thanks to technology and our good startup founders as well. So if you allow, can I share something?
Yes, yes, please.
All right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Y- Yes, it's visible.
All right. So this is a powerful tool being developed by one of the startup company based out of Singapore. So if you're not certain about something that you have received as a part of your email, which supposedly looked like a very authentic and genuine email, and you happen to download a file and still are very suspicious that should I open it or not, you need a way to find out if it is a genuine file before bugging IT team. So you can use services which are available like this. You can quickly spawn a disposable file viewer, spawn a disposable browser, and email as well. So to quickly show you one of the things that I use it quite often, especially in the context of my personal email management. So if I just click on this start button, it will give me a file disposable browser through which I can just quickly browse things that I don't want to open it in my laptop. So looks like this some welcoming email gift from ABC Corp has come in my way. I just click on it, open it in the browser, which is disposable. I'm not opening that in my laptop, and I'm still able to see the browser, the content of that email in my browser as well using this facility. So certain tools like this, if can be curated as a part of the user training, do help a lot in terms of sharing the knowledge and also saving many things that were not supposed to happen in the organization. And the beauty of it is you can dispose it off as well. It gets automatically disposed in 10 minutes, but once you're done identifying that if it is legit or not, you can dispose it off immediately as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, stop sharing.
All right. So yes, user education, yes, it still plays a vital role. Like I wanted to like direct this question to one like like now we have with COVID, being playing a very crucial role in everybody moving to remote work. Like in that context, like how would you say like the phishing threat landscape has evolved, and what are the challenges now these organizations are facing? Like even we are working remote, our my whole team is working remote. There are a lot of companies who is following like these kind of patterns, hybrid work workplaces and remote workplaces. So what are the challenges these organizations face?
First of all, when they're remote, it's very hard to uh, talk to people and understand that where to report. So, first of all, even education detection is okay, but where to report? I think somebody was mentioning about reporting, and reporting is something which is very important, where people are comfortable in reporting those things, even if they have clicked on it. I'll give you I'll share my experience. So I was working for a media company, and media company makes news, and they don't want to be in news. So we were very careful about phishing emails. We had a team set up just for phishing emails. That was that crucial, because we wanted to be sure that nothing goes wrong. When I was giving you that example from I to L, that those cases have happened with us, which means that it's easy for people to get fished. And especially if it's for a finance department or a head of finance, how will you handle that? So, when you have those extensions in your email itself, or you have a particular team where as soon as you click on phishing or spam, it goes to them, and then it's removed from your system altogether, which means you don't need to worry about it. Now, we are doing the education, we are doing everything. But what next comes is, even if when they click on it, something wrong has happened, they might have shared the details, they might have shared the credentials. This is like aftermath that we are doing. Then we need to make sure as soon as they report, we start working with them. We disable their account rather than deactivating, disable their account, change the passwords, enable multi-factor authentication. Because one thing I've realized, multi-factor authentication solves half of our problem, whether we accept it or not, but it solves our problem. Because even if you give out your credentials, you might not want to give out the other things. Except there are cases where people have given out their OTPs as well. But yeah, most of the cases you wouldn't give. So enable multi-factor authentication. Remember that there's a security team you can trust, and they will help you out. There are cases where the systems of finance team, because they have access to multiple shared drives, they got actually certain malwares. So we had to make sure that we disconnect those shared drives from the user ID, and we clean them as well, because it is very important that we have the trust in our employees, and the employees have trust in us in turn, so that they can report it diligently, and we start taking action on those things. uh, for small teams, like you said, Shivani, that it was on your name and you could check it. But there are certain big enterprises who have very crucial units, so they have to have that kind of a system set up. And even for you, you have to have that trust. You have to show the trust, and they have to show trust that yes, we will report if something goes wrong, we will tell you. And if even if we need to clean up our system, discard our system, that's okay. I think those things are very important, because if we just say that we need to look at emails, links,
Yeah.
multi-factor authentication, regularly update, be susceptible to all those phone calls, those things are okay. We have been educating, but
Yeah.
still there is small piece missing, which is trust. If we have that, that yes, when we report, even if we miss out on something, somebody will help us out. I think that will fix a lot of problems for us.
Absolutely.
I
Anyone
think
wants to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the security space, there's this concept of defense in depth, right? So you have multiple layers. Detection tools is one layer, uh, education and training, another layer, multi-factor authentication, another layer. So I think, I don't think there's one single silver bullet which will, solve all of these problems. You got to have multiple, you know, barriers built in, because the attacker is pretty smart. I think that's why the security industry is what it is. There are so many companies doing,
Yeah.
trying to find the next thing, right? Vandana, to your point, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a CISO of a news organization. Especially with news organizations, they have the reverse problem, right? They want to get all the emails because you never know who is sending you something interesting. There's a news tip somebody's, some of them want to be anonymous, so they might be changing their email, or they might have just created a new account. And if you create a new account, it may, if your detection systems don't know about that account, if they don't have that identity, then it may automatically classify that as a spam message. But for a news organization, you want to receive everything. It becomes even more challenging there. What do you do if there's a genuine reporter of some news versus an attacker who's trying to misuse? So things become, pretty complicated in how you detect those scenarios. I think in today's world, still, it is pretty cheap to send bulk emails out with a link or an attachment. You just need that one person to click on it, right? The cost of sending out millions of messages is pretty low. Just if you get one person out of out of that big campaign which the attacker has created, it is, it's pretty successful for them. I think I was reading a report which talked about statistics. Even today, in spite of all the education, all the and thing which detection tools which are out there, I think URL based attacks are still very prevalent. Although, as I mentioned earlier, business email compromise through no links, no attachments are getting more popular. But I think the URL based thing is probably one of the most common uh, method of attack as of today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, since we have been mainly talking about URLs, I think one something that is coming to light these days is the QR codes, right? I mean, that especially in India, it's becoming part of our daily lives, and we keep spending money through these transactions, and in that heat of the moment, you hardly have time to look at the URLs. There are fake QR codes. So that's something, on a consumer side, that education, it's going to be very, very challenging, and it's probably right now the easiest form of phishing.
The QR code scam. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when you're working remote or your whole business is remote, you do want to implement certain standard procedures like pushing the events of Windows Event
Yeah.
Viewer or security events of your laptops to SIM tools and then monitor it as well. Even for a small organization, it's nowadays flexible enough to set up a SIM tool and then push in all the events to that SIM and then monitor it as well for detection and response. And one of the things that I learned, I was working with a company back in 2015. Uh, on those days, remote working was not so popular. It was there in pockets. Some company chose it, but whenever we were asked to work remote, there was one mandate policy in that organization. If you are accessing your email on your personal mobile device, you got to have your mobile device enrolled to MDM solution
Yeah.
of that organization. And that, what it means is that once you enroll your device to MDM solution, all of the privacy policy, all of the defined policies of that MDM gets pushed to the mobile device, so that even you attempt to do something, or maybe somebody is trying to provoke you to do something in that regards, you're safeguarded and monitored as well. If something happens, then the company has a rights to wipe out your device remotely as well.
Yeah.
So those things were also prevailing in working from home as well.
Absolutely. So as a winding up note, I wanted to uh, have this question answered from each one of you. As a collective responsibility, what initiatives can be taken to prevent, and how can we make users more sensitive towards, making more responsible towards identifying phishing and not to fall into this trap? So how can we identify and how can we prevent, and what initiatives can be taken for this?
I think for any organization, it should start off from the top, because that way there's an example which is being said that security is critical. You got to participate in the training. You got to keep retraining yourself and going through the checklist and so on and so forth. So it should be a initiative which is driven, from the top of the company, because today security is a board level type of a discussion. Right? That doesn't matter what size of the company is. The impact is significant for every size, every type of company. Um, Best practices, I think, Vandana, you're from OWASP, so I think the organizations put out pretty good guidelines, and what are some of the things which they should be following. Having a program mandated to follow that, I think, is probably a very good start.
Agreed.
All
I
right.
think,
Go ahead. Go
sorry,
ahead.
Santosh, please go ahead. No, no, please go ahead.
Okay, so I was just saying that when it comes to collective responsibility, I mean, user education to me is one part. You can definitely educate them as much as possible. But from a monitoring technology wise, it's important that as far as possible, use technology to detect, prevent, because human errors may continue. Right, your education may not be consistent. There is this, like Vish said, one click that might change everything. And especially with cases like voice phishing, I mean, other than email phishing also, it's very, very difficult. So I mean, uh, it's good that on a larger context, even the government is now kind of taking its own efforts Like if you see the CERT guidelines that were issued last year, they wanted organizations to report any phishing incidents in less than 6 months. So that becomes advisory for everybody, because one phishing link can have that vast impact beyond your organization also. And then recently I was at this Kavach hackathon meant for cybersecurity, and MHA, they rolled out few problem statements specifically to tackle phishing and fake news spread. And I noticed that there were a lot of startups and students who put up so like wonderful innovative solutions, which probably are in the phases of building right now, where you can use Gen AI to detect, report. There would be a central database within the email itself. You can have green, red, amber signals. That will kind of show the health of that typical email. So things still
Mhm.
seem to be moving in the right direction. I think it'll all go back to voice and deep fake. That may be the challenge in the future.
Yes.
Sorry, Vandana, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was actually going to say the same thing, that as much as user education is important, we need to make sure we fine tune our tools. We configure them right and understand what is needed. If needed, we need to block our IPs, the email server IPs on the
Yeah.
firewall. Let's do that. But understand what we really need. Once we know it, I think it's easy, it's understandable, and we can uh, wave through the hurdles which we come through. So, user education, training our tools right, and understanding what we really need. I think these three things will help us long way. But yes, Gen AI, all of these new technologies will help us. But yes, if you don't train them right, if you don't feed the data right, they'll also be useless.
Yes.
Right. And just thinking purely from the IT department perspective, although I don't belong from that department, but just thinking purely from IT department perspective, most of IT policies are driven from inside out, which means you are always thinking from inside to outside. If something going to happen from inside to outside, right? We at times I've seen in IT policies that when you change your or drift your mind from outside to inside as well and define your policies accordingly, that has changed many other
Yeah.
policies which are mundane, policies which are not needed, security campaigns which were just there for namesake. Those are modified and revised as well. So purely thinking from both directions, inside and out and outside and inside, helps a lot to revise policies of ITs.
Absolutely. I would say like this is just like a continuous process. Like it
Right.
cannot be like Vish also mentioned. It is not one silver bullet. That works for everything. It has to be continually evolving. Even our defense system have to evolve continuously. Like on one hand, where I see open source XDRs and SIEM solutions also coming up. So we are trying to make the environment secure with a lot of technology, but user training and awareness is equally as important as having any tool or policy or compliance in place. So I think we had a great wonderful discussion. I have like one question. Any one of you can take that up. uh, uh, sh- the question goes by, I run the phishing campaign awareness program in our company. We get many failures even after creating so much awareness. And as the techniques are changing, threat actors are changing their tactics also. I'm not sure whether that's a question, but
Yeah, so I think I've seen two things in the recent past working for our company. Is one thing is sharing the threat intelligence amongst the users as well, not just the security department, but the users as well. So what kind of threat intelligence that you can get it? So awareness, obviously, you can simulate the exercise of getting fished and things like that, but awareness also plays a lot.
yeah,
And second thing that I've noticed is that forming a work group, just like what Vish said, it forming a work group from top to bottom, and then and figuring out. that who can be part of that work group and drive that awareness at the department level and the individual level as well, not just being driven by purely by security department, can possibly do some good work there.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes, Santosh.
No, I
No,
was
no,
saying
no.
that was
Please.
that question was very relevant. Phishing campaigns, I mean, they do not bring good results
Yeah.
initially, but then it's like a continuous process. You see the
Yeah.
results, then you further fine tune. You see who the users are. If it is developer community, I would create my phishing campaigns around Stack Overflow, for
Yeah.
example, right? If
Yeah.
it is HR, then it would be something recruitment related. So phishing campaigns, they give you initial data, but then you kind of work on it until you get to the numbers that you want. So it's a continuous fine tuning exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we don't have any more questions, and I would again like to thank each and every one of you on the panel. Okay, I think we got one more question. I'll take that up. So, what are some innovative techniques or technologies that have emerged recently for enhancing the detection and prevention of phishing?
Okay. I mean, from a phishing standpoint, specifically talking about the email phishing, right? There are two possible risks. One, like he was saying, inside out, somebody compromising confidential information on a fake website, right? That's like a compromise of your confidential or personal information. The other possible risk is the attachment being downloaded into your system, which can have a larger impact. Specifically, ransomware is one possible risk. So when it comes to email, obviously, other than the education, technologies like web isolation, where when you open up a website, typically the risks are that the domain may not be legitimate. The transmission may not be encrypted, right? So you use technologies like Fireglass, where every time you open your browser, it's going to be opened on a virtual machine. And it's going to be it'll create an isolation layer between you and that URL, right? And then from there, anything that you download also goes through its own email sanitization. So there are technologies available. Number two, what's also more important, probably we could not discuss much about it, is the whole recovery and resiliency. Every organization, just like any other attack, they will see thousands of phishing emails. There will be false alerts, there will be a lot of genuine ones. But after you get that first phishing email, what are your recovery procedures, right? The quarantine, how do you get ready to support your business again? Do you have standby laptops? How do you communicate? How do you escalate? How do you report these incidents? So security has become kind of combination of everything. One is to get preventive measures, but then if you think there is a possible risk, then how do you respond, recover, and then stand back? So
Anyone wants to add any point?
I think Santosh covered a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that brings us to the end of this discussion. Thank you everyone for being part of this insightful session and the questions that the audience asked. So thank you so much.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.